So we've got a little bit of an edgier topic here today, like toxic MSPs. And even in the prepping for this, Skip and I were like, debating over like the authority of an MSP.
Yep.
And Skip immediately he retorted, like, I have this problem with MSPs in that I get the admin access. I get the restrictions on that, the need for MFA and all that. What I don't get is the MSPs who are unwilling to create an egress for a business, so that what if the MSP, something bad happens? You get locked down, you get busy or something like that, and now the client needs access to their systems. They need to find a new MSP. They need to hire an engineer to come in, and they can't because you have taken complete ownership of their system rather than taking responsibility for their systems.
That's it. And I think, I'll just go ahead and say, I think it's a immature and a fear-based decision that drives some MSPs to do that. They think that they've got some logical reasons for it, and some of them do make good sense, but the motivation behind those, if you really look, they want to kind of hold their customers hostage. Yes. I've got all your admin keys. You've moved all this data over here. You can't do anything. And I'm going to hold on to that because, my service isn't that great. My pricing isn't that great. My team's kind of flaky, and you want to go and pick another MSP, but this is the last straw I have to hold you as a customer. I can basically hold your data at ransom, hold your access at ransom because my organization is not that good, and I may lose you as a customer.
I think what I love is
that's a hard thought or process to take, but I think it applies in a lot of these situations.
I think I love, and it frustrates me most when I see like, oh, well, I'll just shut off their email access if they don't pay.
Mm-hmm.
Disruption to business is a serious, serious threat. And it's because of this arrogance. Now, if I am a car dealer and I sell a car, I will repossess the car if you do not make your pay. The bank will repossess your car if you don't make payments. If you do not honor the deal, I'll just repossess it. No problem. If I have somebody who comes and cleans my house, they're just not going to come in again and clean the house. They just won't service it. Whereas, with an MSP, they are looking for it to hurt. Rather than going through a legal channel, because that's not their first line, their first thought is solve this through technology. Don't solve it through mediation. Don't solve it through your MSA. Solve it through, we will shut off your access. Okay, so you just shut off their access to make money so that they'll pay your bill.
Yeah.
No. And I think that sums up in my mind one of that what is wrong with the MSP industry today. And that is that we are the most important thing in the world. And so it's all technology is the problem and is the solution to everything. And you don't see that bigger picture. Why is this company, like when I see people complain about non-payment from customers, I never get the why. It's always, my customer isn't paying their bill. Okay, have you sat down with them and said, hey, why aren't you paying your bill? Can I help you in some way? We all go through tough times. I just need to know, and let's work this out. And the customers, and yes, some customers are just absolute jerks. Well, there's some toxicity there. There's the client is demanding too much or asking for extra stuff.
We've talked about toxic customers too. Yeah.
And toxic customers was a great conversation we had. I think it was the beginning of last year. And that's okay. But you have to manage that in a healthy way. So as a toxic MSP, you come in, you say, no, this is my system. It's not your equipment. It's my equipment. No, unless you're the client is leasing it from you, it's their equipment. It is their assets. And if you block access to those assets that they own because of something like non-payment or whatever, oh boy, you better hope that they are not fluent with legalese.
Well, yeah. And again, I think you hit on the MSPs are trying to use technology to solve a relationship problem. And too many times, I think it's more those immature MSPs, they don't want to develop those relationships.
Correct.
They like the technology. They want to stay focused on that. And that's all well and good. I totally get that. But there has to be an element of your business that is relationship driven. And if your customer is not paying, you need to talk to them and leverage your relationship to find out why, to address that and fix that. Technology is not going to fix a broken relationship.
And I think, yes, some people are going to be like, oh, well, we own all the Microsoft licensing. They buy their licenses through us. Okay. So once again, they're hostage. Yeah. So you can say, hey, we're not going to pay your license fees for June because you haven't paid us. And then let Microsoft deal with it. Yeah. It becomes a natural consequence. You have not paid your license fees with us. We're not going to front the fees for you. We're not turning off your access. We just aren't paying the fees. Notice to company, as of June 15th, note that Microsoft will discontinue services. They have that 90-day window or whatever it is. And that becomes it and it's a relationship thing. Like, if you want us to pay this for you, then you need to pay us so we have money to pay your fees. If you want to pay it instead, if you want to take over the relationship, that's okay. And that is a conversation. Imagine if you walked in to get your oil changed for your mechanic. And you get there and you forgot your wallet, or for some reason your bank account got drained by a scammer, or you miscalculated your budget, and your mechanic is done with the oil change, and you go to pay and you can't pay. And so the mechanic says, fine, I'll just keep your keys. Yeah, it's my car.
Yeah, I can't even drive to the bank to get your cash
because
you got my keys.
Hold these keys until you pay me. Imagine that relationship, or imagine going to your doctor's office like, hey, we got done with your checkup. You can't check out. Yeah, so we're just gonna, not let you have your body back.
We're gonna park you in the exam room for the next.
We're gonna park you in the exam room. Okay, imagine this relationship in different fields. Like, yes, as Skip pointed out, John Deere. They don't allow you access to the internals of their networking systems on the combine. But that's because it's proprietary. Farmer has no more access to the internal workings of their John Deere than we have access to the chipsets on our machines. Yep. Like, that's it.
And think about that John Deere example. Think about, so, you're in the sub threads or whatever, that gets to be a pretty big topic right now, the right to repair and those sort of issues. We can identify as techie people. Many times we can identify with those farmers, and the animosity that they feel towards these big companies that they feel are hindering them from doing their jobs. Now these aren't one-to-one sort of examples, but are you willing to put yourself on that side of the fence where your customer has this huge pent-up animosity towards you, that they're frustrated with you, that you're hindering their business? Is that really the role that you want to be in? I mean, I think too many times MSPs lose perspective because they're running their own business. Yep. If you go back to our basic business model, all right, we're an outsourced IT resource.
Correct.
And fundamentally, it means they're not hiring an internal IT person, they're hiring you. But if you go back to that, and there's plenty of stories, we've probably all got our collection of them, the internal IT guy that took the company's data hostage, changed all the passwords and all the negative stuff, the lawyers that were involved, that never works out well. And right. Now you're going to put yourself in the exact same role. You're going to be that, illegally operating employee that seizes company data and lets the lawyers come chasing you down. Don't go there.
I get the desire to pressure companies to, hey, you got to pay your bill. because I got to pay my bills. I understand that 100%. What I don't understand is why it has to be through technology. And why can't you go and like there's mediation people, there's attorneys, even if you don't go attorneys, there's mediation. It's cheap. You can do that. You can sit down at the table and say, look, here's what's going to happen. We can't pay your licensing fees. So your Microsoft is going to shut off your access. We're not going to shut it off. Microsoft is going to shut off if you don't pay these fees. And so you can have these very viable conversations. They require you to sit down with the person. If they aren't willing to sit down, you send them notice like, hey, look, Microsoft is going to shut your services down. Not us, Microsoft. Because in corporate IT, we have these things that are really important that often get overlooked. For instance, do you know who the best person to handle tape backups is? The janitor. It's facilities.
Facilities, yes.
IT.
Yeah.
Why?
I was thinking administrative staff, but yeah.
Because if your attorney, a staff member outside of IT, anybody outside of IT who is trustworthy, because if somebody in IT goes rogue, if they have access to the backups, they can delete the backups. They can go and they can screw with everything. Or if you have an incompetent employee come in, they should have been backing everything up, but they're incompetent. So they haven't been. And now you need to restore and you can't. But if you get an administrator who backs up and they know they follow this process, that's out of band. Now, when it comes to IT, the CIO of a department should have access to the domain admin. They should have a separate domain admin. They should have a separate set of credentials that can be accessed in case of emergency. That's why they're a chief information officer. They know not to access this crap. They know not to log in on domain admin because they understand. However, if they have a rogue employee who goes through and starts locking things, they know they have a out of band way of getting in. But when it comes to MSPs, unless this is part of your MSA, most of you are acting like a single employee who could go rogue at any point and shut down their company. Yep. And what I see from the attitude online is that it's because MSPs believe that the network, that the PCs, that the routers, everything technology-wise is their equipment.
They do.
And the difference is you're responsible for that equipment.
Yep.
It is not yours, though.
Yep.
And that is a huge key differentiator in good service delivery.
Yeah. And I saw this in the corporate world, and I probably did this in the corporate world. You get put in charge of something. So, my time in corporate America, really large divisional office, the largest, our division was bigger than pretty much all the divisions combined, right? So I had the big network. And it was my responsibility for that to run. If field offices couldn't connect, they called me. If I had, senior vice presidents running our division, if they couldn't do whatever they needed to do because of the network, it was my responsibility. So when corporate staff came in and started to try to do things, I get really defensive. I'm like, that's my network. I'm running that. But, it wasn't. We even say, well, it came out of my budget. Okay. Well, my budget was given to the division by corporate, right? So it's not mine, but yes, I think of it as mine. I run it as mine. That's a good mindset, but only up to an extent.
Yeah.
You can't go too far with that.
And I think understanding that you are a steward of this technology is a different mentality than this is my technology. Like if it is a leased asset, like if it's your firewall that you're leasing to the organization, by no means do they need to get access to that device. They have 100% leased that item. It is yours. You can do whatever rules you want, and they can decide they don't like the terms of the leasing agreement and cancel it. But if they buy the asset, it is their asset to mess up in any way they see fit. You may decide that you don't want to service them anymore because they keep screwing things up. And you can say, hey, look, you're going to have domain admin rights. Here are the risks involved with that. If we give you a domain admin password, then what we want to do is we want to say, if you wish to use this, here are the rules, just like another employee. Here are the rules that and best practices to use this. And you know what? That client can say, screw you. I'm giving this to all my employees. At which time you can say, okay, then you are too much of a risk for us. We cannot service your environment. Good day.
That's it exactly.
And so that is a healthy communication standard.
It is.
Because they have expectations and they are a bad culture fit for your MSP. But there is nothing wrong with giving them egress access in case of emergency.
Well, and I know, so we've been talking a lot about access, but I think this applies to a lot of things. If your client is wanting to do something that you don't want them to do, all right, you need to understand why. So in the context of access, why does your client feel like they need admin access to whatever, to email or the domain, whatever it is? Why do they need to do that? If they feel that they need that access because they don't trust you to do the job the way it needs to be done, there's your bigger problem. Not giving them access or not. Your problem is your client doesn't trust you. So you're going to have to overcome that. And yes, you want to give them access, but you also want to create an environment where they don't need it. And that's what's going to take the relationship building. That's what's going to take the work. Now, I know, yes, you're going to have those rogue guys who just like to get in there and play with stuff, right? And you're going to have to manage those are your one-offs, manage those differently. But as a standard practice going with your clients, they need all of these things, but you shouldn't be, they might want all of these things, but you shouldn't be giving them a reason to need to do these questionable
Think about
activities.
like physical security in a building. It used to be that you had like a master key that opened all the doors in an office building. And eventually we really learned that that's a bad idea because now you have to track the keys and then you don't know where all the master keys are. So what you do is you create one or two master keys and you designate them to people and you put these in drawers in case of emergency. And then everybody else gets specific use keys, or in this case, fobs that can access some of the building, but not all of the building. However, there is always one person on site who has access to the entire building in case of emergency. This is a separation of duties thing. It is a risk mitigation feature, and it's okay. And as an MSP, you just got to understand that there are toxicities in your business that you are aware of. And your clients are a good client is trying to mitigate some of that toxicity. You're going to hire employees who are a-holes. You're going to hire employees who are incompetent. You're going to hire employees who have bad days. Now, you're just asking to a new customer point blank, just trust us. And they are trusting you, but they still want to do best practice. So if I have a CIO at this client and they've got one person who's in charge of technology and understanding how they're using technology in the business because the MSP isn't providing this advisory service, that person gets an admin access. However, they need to be explained that here is how admins work in our organization as an MSP. If you are not on board with this, then we are a bad culture fit and you'll have to seek another MSP and we will help you transition. But you need to see if there's a CIO sitting there, or if even the CEO is like, I need egress access in case of emergency. And then you can say, this is how we do egress access so that our employees can't reset your password, that you can always log in with this password, but you're going to log in every 90 days and make sure it's reset and make sure two-factor is on it but it's because it is their equipment and they're working on your terms as good stewards. And that's okay. Now, some of you MSPs may say, nope, it's my equipment. They don't get a say in it. Like, all right, you've set the tone there. Understand that you are now officially a mechanic.
That's it.
You have just officially firmly seated yourself in a Best Buy reseller. And if you want to be an advisor, you've got to work with them and you've got to build a what, Skip?
You got to build a relationship.
Build a relationship with your client.
Yes.
So that the culture fit is there, and that you understand as an MSP that you're a steward of a small piece of their business, an important part, but just a part. And you get a seat at the table now because you're representing that piece of their business. And when you see yourself like that, it changes you mentally to think, oh, well, now I need to say, hey, here is why the system is breaking down. I'd like us to move in this direction. And then the company can say, well, that doesn't fit into our overall objective. I appreciate what you said. And let's go in this different way. Like, well, what's your overall objective? Like, well, we're trying to get to, and then you get this bigger story of how they're trying to open multiple locations, how they're going to try to move into a franchise, or maybe they're going through an acquisition. And now you can ask bigger questions. Oh, well, since I know that now, here's what we can do for you. And
now
here's how we can
partner.
help you. And now you're partnering versus before it's like, nope, they're asset managers. That's it. You know, they if we mess up, they own the asset. So when you walk in and say, that's my router, that's my switch, that's my network, you guys need to understand how offensive that is. And the business owner is just sitting there just smiling because they're a cordial person and they know how to play politics. They know they need to deal with this person and this attitude that thinks that they own this place. And they look at you like, okay. But they will never ask your opinion because no one wants that person's opinion.
Right. That doesn't do anything to build trust. That doesn't do anything to maintain a relationship. There's always going to be somebody that can, if you're in that mindset, there's always going to be somebody out there that can do it cheaper.
Yeah.
And, at least they say they can. Whether they can or can't, it doesn't really matter. You're always going to be battling that. But if you have the relationship, then you've also got the chance to make more margin because your clients are be paying for more value than just assets. But I want to talk about, you keep throwing out the term CIO. And I know a lot of people go, my customers are small. They don't have a CIO.
Everybody has a CIO.
Everybody has. We've talked about that many times before. It may not be on their business card, but they have that role. So help them with that. All right. And maybe they're not asking for it because they don't have that dedicated position in-house that knows to ask that. What would it do to your client relationship if you sat down one day and said, I understand you're a small shop, you're wearing multiple hats. Let me help you with the CIO role. Yeah. I know that you're not really a techie guy, but since you own the company, you only got 6 employees, you're kind of doing it all. Here are the general responsibilities that the CIO role does. And I want to make sure that we're giving that role everything it needs. And you offer the admin keys. You say, hey, these are really secure. These are important. You need to take these. You need to put these in, a well-marked envelope, and it needs to be locked in your company safe somewhere. All right. Whatever that is. And the client looks at it and goes, all right, they're helping me with my business. I don't know the CIO sort of things to do, but they're telling me, they're giving me the tools I need. Now they're seeing you as a partner and not a vendor. So don't hesitate those. Actually embrace that and make sure it gets done properly.
And for those of you out there who are thinking that Skip and Adam are just have their heads in the clouds, remember, it was our generation of IT professionals that fought the whole everybody has admin access battle. We were the first ones on the line. Everybody had administrator access, carte blanche. We started user segmentation. We defined it. So I understand the need to control admin access, but we've gone too far and it's creating toxic relationships. And you may be a good MSP. You may be a great MSP at taking care of your clients, but you may have this toxicity in that you think that you own their company, that you own their network. And this is something that you just need. You are stewards of their network. You are caretakers of the network. You are partners who are assisting them in running their company. Now, they may not understand like the admin access, And it's your job to educate them. Do you honestly think the CEO of this company who is successful does not have the level of responsibility and discipline to use admin passwords correctly? Do you honestly think there's a maturity problem there? I really doubt a person in a CEO or a leadership role at a small, medium business who has been successful has a problem with self-discipline. They may have their personality quirks. And if they do install things, like you're going to be, as a good MSP, you're tracking admin access. You can see if they're doing dumb things with you. You can say, hey, look, you've been using your domain admin credentials to log into your environment. That's bad. If you keep doing that, we're going to terminate our contract because that's a huge risk to us. And so then you have that conversation and they get it. Like, oh yeah, I'm sorry. But
I cached that password I shouldn't have. Yep.
You should never use, so you give them that red envelope, the doomsday, equipment. Don't get to use these passwords unless something really bad happens. In that case, you have this red envelope or whatever it is for your vault. And you say, you as a CIO get to hold this envelope in case of emergency. Now, go back to my earlier illustration. Like, instead of holding the keys to the kingdom as ransom for payment, then you say, look, you haven't paid your bill with Microsoft. They're going to cancel your service. Hey, you haven't replaced your FortiGate licensing. You haven't updated that. Bad things are going to happen on this date. It's not our fault. And I'm just telling you as a steward of your equipment that these things are going to stop working here pretty soon. So you need to figure out, is there something with, hey, if you're having a hard time as a business, there are things we can do to help you extend out and not disrupt your business. But you got to work with us. We're helping you, like these MSP, like, hey, you can talk to Microsoft. Maybe you can negotiate on their behalf saying, hey, look, this company is going through financial distress. Can we give them like 4 months to figure out their bankruptcy filing? These things, like, that gets remembered.
Mm-hmm.
And
it does. Yeah. Those are the company. That's the service company that helped me through that really hard season. All right. You get them through that. They're not going to be looking at your competitors. They're going to see you as someone who helped their company survive and could help their company grow. That's where you want to be. That's the margin you're looking for in your business long term, not the commodity stuff.
And as Skip said in the beginning and just a few minutes ago, you got to build the relationship with your client and set those expectations in your MSA. This is not our equipment. We are stewards of your equipment. Here are the terms in which we will maintain your environment. And then when your employees see it as the customer's environment, when somebody brings you a car to work on, you realize it is their car and it needs to be treated with respect. My car, I'm going to get in and I keep my car as clean as I can, but I treat it differently than when I'm getting into somebody else's car. There's a mental shift there.
Well, even your mechanic does that. Says, there's options here. And the mechanic looks at it, and you ask them, what should I do? And so many times I'd say, well, if it were my car, I would do this. Yeah. Right? Do you really want your mechanic going, hey, that's my car. You just drove it into my bay. And
you brought my car back.
And I'm going to do what I want to it. No, you want to work with them.
If you think about like the mentality of some of these MSPs, is that is their car. You know what? You really need to put chrome hubcaps on this because it's going to make it look great. Everybody's going to like it. It's going to look great.
It's those big spike ones that stick out like a foot from the wheel.
It's going to be $1,200 and I can have it done this afternoon. And the person goes, I don't want chrome hubcaps. You're like, well, but you need them. It'll look so nice and the car will be way better with these things on it. But I don't want them. And then you get frustrated because the client won't listen to you. I'm telling them what they need. I know what they need. Do you know how many times I've heard MSPs say, I know what my client needs?
Yes.
Oh my gosh, guys.
That is dangerous. That is so dangerous.
You need leather interior. I like cloth interior. No, you need leather interior. It's easier to clean. Like, well, I clean carpets for a living. So it's easier for me. I have all the equipment to clean a cloth interior. Yeah, but you need leather. It looks better. It wears better. It's sturdier. Like, I like the cloth interior because I know how to. And why aren't you listening to me? You need leather interior. That's how you sound as an MSP when you're toxic, because you're not hearing what they're saying. You're not hearing their concerns and why they chose to go this way. Hey, I need admin access to my environment. Can you please explain to me why? And they may say, because we heard it was best practice in one of my business seminars to make sure that we have something called root access to all of our devices we own. Oh, well, in that case, here's our process for that. Whenever somebody gets admin access to a client's environment, they go through this process and they get training on this. Are you okay with that? Cool. Right. You just partnered with them and helped them solve the problem.
Right. And then they open the door.
You need to buy this new piece of equipment. Like, what's it going to do for me? Well, it's going to help you with this and this and this. Well, those aren't concerns for us right now. What we're really concerned with is our salespeople getting out on the road. Oh, well, in that case, let me help you out with your remote access.
Or just the root access. Yeah, the root access. Someone says, I should have root access. Well, yeah, you should, but that's part of your business continuity and your disaster recovery plan. Do you have one of those? The client says, no, I don't. But they're hearing that this is something they ought to be doing. And you go, that's an exercise that we can go through. It's an additional fee, but we'll sit down with you and we'll build out a business continuity plan for your organization so that you have that information. And they're like, okay, yeah, I need to do that. Go ahead and send that over and we'll get started.
I want to leave with this one little bit of tidbit. Yes, well, it's a dog ear on your screen, by the way.
Yeah, it is.
There's when you go into a doctor's office and somebody, there's a big opioid problem in the United States right now. It's being addressed. Beside the point. They give you prescription drugs that could kill you. But you know what they do before they give them to you? They talk to you about the importance of maintaining this drug and following the directions on it. And they hand you the bottle saying, this can kill you, and like the person takes it. Now, there's mental checks for that. Like, are they in a good place where they can do it? You do the same thing as an MSP. You're going to hand them these keys, but with these keys comes responsibility. Understand, I'm giving this to you and you are now liable, and we're going to be monitoring the use of these for different things. So you understand why I'm giving you these keys and the liability and the responsibility that comes with them. Just like a doctor does with an opioid or any other dangerous drug. They explain it. They say, you will do this. Now, it's in your hands and it's on you to be responsible with this stuff. And yes, people make bad choices all the time. It happens, but that's on them. It's not on the doctor. It's on the doctor as if they don't explain the necessity of being respectful with this drug or with this item. When I get a gun, like Skip and I are Midwesterners. Like most of us grew up with guns and we are given one, and your dad gives you a very stern conversation. Like, this is a respectful thing. And like, I give you this gun. We are more restricted with admin passwords than we are with medications and guns.
That's true. That's true.
Think about that, people. So don't be a toxic MSP. Build relationships with your clients. Help them understand what their needs are. Help them understand how to be a responsible business owner with egress passwords, with out-of-band backups, with ways of securing and mitigating risk in their environment that makes sense for them, and play within your culture. If you can do that, you are now a healthy MSP. You are now somebody who is working with your client, and you're going to be seen as an advisor because you're being wise.
The relationships are profitable.
Relationships
you have to put some work into it, though.
Yep. And if you want to know more about what a CIO is, I actually looked it up. There is a podcast. It's episode 254, CIO Persona. You can go check that out. We talk about what does the office of the CIO mean, and why do they need certain rules, and why do they need certain education. So I appreciate this. This has been a great conversation. Toxic MSPs. It's not what you think. It's not just people who are bad at their jobs, but people who are irresponsible with their decision-making or their mentality. Thank you, everyone, for coming on. We'll see you next week.